Hi crypto kings and queens, my name is Natalie. Welcome to my channel. I am having this inverted hammer right here because on the weekly chart on Bitcoin we can see if we're closing like this, even if it's 7 hours left, if we're closing we do have an inverted hammer against this previous support. We can actually have a push to the upside in the beginning of this week, but we have to break this resistance trend line that we're having on the 4-hourly chart. So I am able to see if we're breaking this previous lower high, potentially see a retest, and then I'm going to explain exactly why I do have these levels, which is very important to look at if we're reaching these targets. I will also share the bearish scenario that I do have and why I believe the market can come back down to around 34k and potentially 30k. Remember, I'm no financial advisor. You need to look up everything yourself first, but please continue looking at this video and I'll show you exactly what I see can happen on Bitcoin right now. If we're looking at the weekly on Bitcoin, if we're closing like this, even if it's 8 hours and 19 minutes left, if we're closing with the candlestick looking like this is an inverted hammer, which also tells us that we can actually continue to the upside. When we're having the inverted hammer against a support, as we do have, can you see this is actually a support? And if we are using this inverted hammer that potentially can be created on Bitcoin on the weekly chart, and the weekly chart is very strong, I definitely believe that we can push to the upside. I do believe that we can fill this wick up. And even if we're having these levels right here, I do have this supply candle between 41,000, around 42k and 42k 500. Going to the daily chart, I will also use this previous candlestick that we did have before. This is also the last lower high that we do have around 44k. 44,500 potentially. On the lower time frames, we can see the market is actually creating a low, higher low, and we just might now potentially create another higher low, because I strongly believe that if we are closing this weekly candlestick like this, we are going to the upside and we will try to retest this resistance trend line one more time. If we're coming up to these levels, we just not break through it right away. Definitely want to see how market is behaving around 42k and potentially 44.5k before I'm taking a decision. But if we see some movement to the upside and on the lower time frames, you'll see we can also do this. So we're having we do have this higher time frames resistance trend line, but I'm also gonna take this one on the 4-hourly chart because this is the one telling us we are still in a downtrend. On the 1-hourly chart, you can see more clear that the market is actually creating lower lows and lower highs. But if we are breaking this if we're breaking this trend line, and combined with that, we can see the weekly candlestick being an inverted hammer, which is telling us that usually what happens is that the market is pushing to the upside. If I see a break on the lower time frames now on the 4-hourly chart, the last lower high on the 4-hourly chart is around 39,500. So if I see a break of this level and a higher low being created, because at that point we're breaking this resistance trend line, at that point I'm actually gonna take, as always, I'm gonna take my Fibonacci from the lowest point to the next high, and after that I'm gonna wait for the next higher low. And if we're coming to the Fibonacci levels, I do not know the levels yet because I need to see the higher high being created, so I'm able to put my Fibonacci against it. Because if we wanna find a higher low, what we need to do is take the Fibonacci from the last lower low to the next higher high. I wouldn't be surprised if it's gonna look something like this, because usually what happens when we're breaking a trend, we are retesting the previous lower high as a new higher low and then pushing to the upside. So previous resistance becomes to support and then continuation. I definitely strongly believe that we will come up and retest these levels. First of all, this is what I'm gonna look at until if we're breaking it, we do. If we're not, we're coming back down, because we do have a lot of levels right here which we can see the market trying to retest again, and eventually we just might see a push to the downside. But at the moment, if I'm able to trade the push that I do believe that we will have tomorrow, if this weekly candle is closing like an inverted hammer, I'm gonna buy the market and I'm gonna have my take profit based on the Fibonacci that I'm having minus 23.75 and 1.2. And after that, we're seeing if we're coming up to the resistance trend line, retested, or continues back down. But if we're gonna have a bearish scenario, because obviously two things happens, market goes up, market goes down. Our job is to find out what direction the market is going to, and with that we're using the technical side just to see what type of level we're breaking, how does the candlestick looking, etc, etc. Overall picture on Bitcoin is obviously a downtrend, right? Because you can see the market creating lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. This just might now be a higher high, and market is going sideways, so we need to eventually break the last lower high, lower low, or lower high to either see the market breaking to the upside or breaking to the downside, or we just continuing going sideways for a while. But if we are looking for a bearish perspective, what we need to do is that we need to break this previous low and this the support trend line, and potentially see a retest. And the next level that I see market coming to is around 34,300. Going to the lower time frames, I am using this candlestick here as a demand candle that we did have on the 24th of February. It is the 4-hourly chart, but from this candlestick we saw this huge push to the upside, to this lower high that we did create. So if the market comes back down to this level, I strongly believe that we will see some rejections of it and bounce to the upside again. So if we're breaking the support trend line, I definitely believe that we can come back down pretty close to this demand candle. After that, I have no clue what's gonna happen, but I mean, we are, overall picture, we are in a downtrend, but it also looks like Bitcoin is now starting to reverse slowly and steady to breaking the trend, and the market is going down. It went down. The market is now going sideways, and usually what happens when a market goes sideways like this, you can see it just here, market went down, you were going sideways for a while, and then eventually the market broke to the upside, and this is happening all the time. So we just might now be how this was before until we actually broke it. And you can also see that if we're taking a trend line, you could obviously see that we did break the last lower high, but we did consolidate for a while, and then you see this huge movement. And the same thing here, even if it doesn't look the same, but it's the same principle that a market goes down sideways, eventually market needs to break the lower high, and then we are continuing to the upside. At the moment, we are in a sideways market. We're just waiting to see the confirmations that we're actually going to start to be in an uptrend, or if we're just continuing back down a little bit more, and maybe we're finding the support around 30K again, and potentially see the last push to the downside consolidating and continuation to the upside, or if it's just continuing back down. I have no clue what's going to happen, but by understanding how market structure is moving, you see sideways market, market breaks to the upside, sideways market, market breaks to the downside, sideways market, potentially breaking to the upside, sideways market, market goes back down. But we can still trade on the lower time frames, obviously, just because we're not having huge momentum, we can still trade it. And just like by looking at the charts at the moment, we can see the market is now we are breaking this resistance trend line on the 4-hourly chart, and we are we just might now soon see the market so either we're coming back up and retest this previous low that we do have. You can already see that we did have this candlestick against it, and we're having the wick. But if we're breaking it, retest, I can strongly see the push to the upside based on the weekly inverted hammer. So if we're looking at my trade that I did have on Luna, my target never got activated. I did have my sell limit order. Can you see how precisely it almost did hit it? Almost hit it, but it didn't, and then the market just went to the downside. So I'm gonna take this one away. The technical analysis was very good. I took the Fibonacci from 93 back down to the lower low at 81, and market came up and retested. You also had the market giving us an evening star against this level, market push down. Remember that you can receive a bonus on BYBIT up to $4,100 if you're using the link in the description down below this video. I also know that you're having the link up here in the right or lower left corner, somewhere here, okay? BYBIT, super good platform if you are a swing trader, if you want to hold your position for a long time with very low fees or zero fees. You are always supporting Bitcoinsensus channel by doing that, so we are always able to share our thoughts together with you. Thank you so much, guys, for looking at this video together with me. How are you seeing Bitcoin at the moment? Maybe you're seeing something completely different towards what I see. Please comment below so I can see your perspective of it. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification so you always know when I'm having my daily updates about cryptocurrencies. Like this video, comment below just as I told you. Otherwise than that, I'm going to start work out today for real deal. So I'm going to the gym after this. Mwah, for Sweden.